Welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast. I'm Jim, joined by Taylor and Steve, and we are going to start discussing some safeties for 2027, 2028, and 2029 drafts. But before we do that deep dive, Taylor, it's good to see your K-State hat.
I will say we have the Sunflower Showdown this weekend. We've beaten the Kansas Jayhawks 16 times in a row. This is probably their best chance in those 17 years to beat us. It's in Lawrence at their new stadium that's half finished. They have a chance to beat us tomorrow. Unfortunately, it's not something I'm looking forward to, but hopefully we win because 17 in a row would be awesome. I'm hoping that in my lifetime we can catch KU and take over the rivalry lead, which we're on pace to do, but it won't be till, I don't know, we're about 60, 70. I'm about 60, I guess. But we are going to talk about two players today that had their best games of the season against K-State. So we're going to have to, whatever. It's fine. We'll get to that later. Steve, how's it going?
It's going good, man. Good to have you back. I was the one that was out last week, so it's good for me to be back. But yeah, here we are. I can't believe it. We're a week away from Halloween. We're entering week 9 of the NCAA, and it's going way too fast. A lot of cool storylines, and the narrative changes when we're doing our summer scouting, whether it's quarterbacks or safeties or wide receivers. So it's a lot of fun. So here we are.
Cool. Well, this is our final podcast on advanced scouting. So on Mondays, we had done some advanced draft scouting for the offensive positions. Taylor and Steve were taking this time on Thursdays to do the defensive positions. This is their fourth podcast. The fourth position is safety. So they've watched a few 2027, 2028, or 2029 players. And if they're standing out, they are going to bring them to the audience's attention now. Taylor, who is the first safety you'd like to bring up?
Yeah, I will. You know what? I'll stick with the guy that I've talked about on the show before, and I'll continue to talk about him. That's Matthew Bailey, safety out of Illinois. He's one of my favorite safeties that I've evaluated, at least from a 2027 perspective. I don't think he's going to come out this year, although I think he is eligible. But he's 6'2", 215 pounds. And I think the Illinois injuries to their secondary has forced him to play out of position a little bit. And he did have a game. He started weeks 5 and 6, I believe, at free safety when he's normally a box safety, someone that's down towards the line of scrimmage, a bigger body, good in the run game. And he had his lowest graded game of the season while he was filling in at deep safety against Purdue. He only had a 35 grade, according to PFF, which is obviously really, really not great. So I have to dive into the tape and see what went wrong in that game when he's playing out of position. But when he's down in the box, he's a playmaker. He switched back and had one of his best games of the season last week against Ohio State. The Duke game was really, really impressive. He had a forced fumble in that game. He was all over the field in that game. And like I said, he's usually a 70, 75% box safety. And in those two games that he filled in at deep safety, and he obviously played much worse. He played 90% of his snaps at either deep safety or in the slot in those two games. So we kind of know what he is, and it's kind of what I've been saying the whole time we've talked about him. Matthew Bailey is someone that is going to play at the line of scrimmage. He's going to be in the run game, and he's going to make his money that way. He might play special teams, things like that. Not the best cover guy, but he's really, really physical in the box. So I like Matthew Bailey out of Illinois still. And I think that little experiment with the injuries, moving into deep safety, really getting an eye for how it is, or how he plays back there. I think that kind of solidified that he's someone that's going to need to be around the line of scrimmage to have success.
Nice. And Steve, who is the first safety that you'd like to bring everybody's attention to?
Yes, so I'm going to start talking about some guys that we haven't focused on yet. Start perking up the antennas for the future draft cycles. And I'm going to start from the Pittsburgh Panthers with Cruz Brookings, redshirt sophomore safety, 6'2", 195. So he's draft eligible starting next year. He's a local kid out of Steel Valley High School, Pennsylvania. Really nice, good frame and length. We have talked about some other Pittsburgh players as we've been doing these underclassmen shows. So, my opinion, they've been building, a nice defense for themselves. He's got 67 tackles, 3 interceptions through his 2 seasons. He's very long and rangy. Most of his snaps have been in the free safety role. Depending on where you stand on PFF grades, you can't ignore that he has just gone from here all the way to here. 2024, he was at 62.5, and through this season right now, he's at 89. In the past, I really like guys that have a significant amount of snaps. So on defense entirely, we're looking at 334 with 190 of those in coverage. And, he's got an 88 coverage grade. He's got a good coverage advantage. He's got a nice physical presence. He's averaging almost 6 tackles per game. He's got good anticipation on routes. The turnover production, maybe that comes. Not a lot of INTs. He had a really nice game last year against West Virginia in the backyard brawl. This year against Syracuse. So I think it's somebody we'll be talking about over the course of the next year.
Yep, I agree. He actually had someone that I had on my list too that wasn't on Steve's original list that he sent me. He is right now the number 1 graded PFF safety. Again, depending on how you feel about that. Obviously, JJ Watt's not on this show, so we don't have to hear about that. But number 1 graded PFF safety in the 2027 through 2029 classes. So that's everybody that's eligible from 2027 and beyond. And I think, Steve talked about this a little bit. He's playing more deep safety. In 2024, he almost played exclusively in the slot. So he moved from the slot and now he's playing more safety. And like Steve said, his PFF grade, his performance on the field has just skyrocketed. Like that position change really launched him into someone that we are going to talk about as a safety. Whereas if he stayed at the slot cornerback like he was last year, he wasn't having as much success as he is now. So, I'm a big fan of Cruz Brookins as well. Like Steve said, 6'2", 195. So he's someone that has the frame to really move all over in the secondary.
And Taylor, who's the next safety you'd like to discuss?
Yeah, let me go to, and this is going to make Steve really, I don't know if Steve had this guy on his list, but it's Bud Clark's running mate, Jamel Johnson. From TCU. He's 6'1", 200 pounds. He is mostly a box safety, kind of like Matthew Bailey. Obviously, I kind of have a style. I like the bigger physical safeties. I have some more on this list that I like to talk about, but he's one of TCU's highest graded players, has been all season. And he was actually ranked a midseason All-American. So he's playing at a phenomenal level. I don't believe he's eligible until next year. This is just a guy that I added on my list just recently. He was one of the last guys I added right before the show. But he's allowing Bud Clark to thrive because he's able to play in the back end of that defense, and those two play off each other really well. So I think Jamel Johnson's someone to watch from TCU as well, and he'll step into an even larger role, right, once Bud Clark leaves at the end of this year. So we'll be hearing his name next year and continuously, and then, like I said, TCU, they're 5-2 right now. So they're a team on the rise, and they're still competing for a Big 12 title. So, yeah. What about you, Steve?
Yeah, so glad you brought him up. Somebody I looked at. Interestingly enough, his rush defense grade is significantly better than the other grades that PFF gives. Yep. You hit it out of the park on his size. Comes from Arlington, Texas. Top 35 recruit. He did actually briefly enter the portal, but he pulled himself out. And he's stuck there. 4 interceptions, 2 pass breakups. He's got that pro-ready frame. You and I tend to like, these guys that are built that way. Got good instincts. You're right. He really does pair up nicely with Bud Clark. As you know, he's one of my favorites. Mm-hmm. Can't wait to talk more about him. Jamel is just a smart, consistent performer, within the Big 12 competition. So good find.
Yeah, I think another thing about him too is that last year, like I said, he's more of a box safety, or he was in 2024, right? So he played 383 snaps in the box, 170 at free safety. This year, it's about 200 each. So he's playing more deep safety, and he had 0 interceptions and 900 snaps coming into this year. 4 interceptions already. So he's, we talked about it with Cruz Brookins just a second ago about you're not seeing the production in the form of turnovers, right? Well, with Jamel Johnson, he has 4 turnovers in 7 games. So he's someone to watch for sure. Do you want to talk about Bud Clark right now?
Go for it. I can't build to bigger statures, so go for it.
All right, we'll pivot then. We don't need to talk about Bud Clark. Bud Clark's probably going to be in this class. Very good safety. I'll shift it over to another someone who I think is honestly, he's not on a lot of people's radars. We talked about him in the Duke preview. His name's Deshaun Stone, safety out of Duke. He's 6'3", 200 pounds. I think he's a potential day 3 guy in 2027. So he's not someone that's even, I don't think, necessarily on the radar for right now. But for next year, I mean, he's a very raw prospect. I think he had only played 18 games coming into this year. He started at both free safety and strong safety this year. He's a rare breed in that he's pretty much split evenly snaps from in the box, deep safety, and slot corner. So he really can move around all over the place, and he's good at special teams. He's really aggressive. He can get over physical and over aggressive at times, but I think once he reins that in and he continues to improve as a defender, not just a special teams player that can just run down and knock somebody's head off, I think he's someone that we could see, rise up. And he kind of reminds me of a JL Skinner. If you remember JL Skinner out of Boise State, 6'4" safety that the Broncos took, I think in the 7th round, if I'm not mistaken. And he is the special teams guy, right? One of the special teams specialists for the Denver Broncos right now. And that's kind of what Deshaun Stone, reminds me of a little bit.
So that was Brian. That was Deshaun Stone, the safety from Duke.
Yep. 6'3", 200 pounds.
Okay. Steve, who's the next safety for the future draft years that you want to bring to everybody's attention?
Sure. So I'm going to slide over to the Fighting Irish, Notre Dame. And there's actually 2 guys that we could talk about. I really want to focus at least briefly on both of them, but I'll kick it off with Adon Schuler. Okay, so he's a sophomore, so earliest eligibility will be next year, 2027. The overall PFF grade, and again, I'll say it 100 times till I'm blue in the face, I don't put a ton of stock into it. But, one thing that jumps out, both of these safeties, both Adon Schuler and Tay Johnson, are almost at 400 snaps apiece. So that's pretty good considering, the fact that they're still pretty young. Schuler, I really wanted to highlight because his pass defense grade is way up there. He's at almost an 89. I think it's 88.9 to be exact. I just lost my note. There he goes. Comes from a suburb of Newark, New Jersey, Irvington High School. He was a consensus 4-star recruit. He had 103 tackles and 3 interceptions at Irvington his senior year. He's got a couple of forced fumbles this year, an INT, good instincts. The turnover production is already there. We've talked both here, and Taylor and I have done some work on our own channels on Moore out of Notre Dame. We expect him to be up there. He may not be alone in that secondary next year because these 2 guys are already starting to show something if they elect to come out, let's say in 2027. Coaching definitely trusts him because he's been on a rapid development path. Last year, or perhaps it was the year before, he was limited on special teams, so he is contributing there. But he's intriguing. Anything on Schuler, Chaub, before I jump into Tay Johnson?
Yeah, I don't know. You had him listed. Did you say 6 foot, 205 pounds? Is that what you had him listed at?
I actually don't think I put his size.
Well, I have him at 6 foot, 205 pounds, but I don't know about you, but when I was watching the tape, he looks so much bigger than 6 foot, 205 pounds. He's more physical than that playing size. He's a hard hitter at the line of scrimmage. Like, he is making plays all over the field, and he's fast. That you might remember this guy from what just happened in the Notre Dame USC game, the Makai Lemon reverse pass that ended up being a fumble. Well, that's because he sprinted from safety and he made the play. He's the one that forced that fumble, completely changed the game. It was a 3-point game with 11 minutes left. He's the one that forced that fumble on Makai Lemon and changed the game. So I'm a huge fan of him. I think I just from a playmaking perspective, I think one of the things that I noticed that was my favorite thing about him is when tight ends block and release, a lot of times they get lost in the shuffle, right? Because the focus is elsewhere. They're blocking. You think they're blocking. The safety thinks they're blocking. Then they release. Well, not every time. The times that I saw him on a tight end that was blocking and releasing, he was all over them. The second that they released, he smothered them, didn't allow the catch. So big fan of his game. I think he's someone that definitely can rise. You want to talk about Tate Johnson?
Sure. Let's switch over. So in terms of the size profiles that have been given, he's a little bit bigger. Mm-hmm. He's listed as 6'2", a little lighter though, at 192 pounds. At a Northside High School in Fort Wayne, Indiana, he was a multi-sport athlete. He's got a track background. He ran a 10.98 100 meter. So pretty good. He had a good senior year of high school. What's interesting is there's conflicting info on him because I have him down as a sophomore. PFF has him down as a freshman. I don't think that that's correct unless maybe he redshirted last year, but I don't think so. But yeah, 6'2". He's got good catch radius for coverage, good fluid hips. You saw him, I noticed him in the USC game this past weekend. Good ball skills, takes smart angles, got good closing speed. Would like to see him add a little bit of weight. We say that all the time when we're talking about these underclassmen. More than enough time to do that. And just want to see him continue to develop in his complex routes and, advancement of reads.
Yeah. You mentioned Fort Wayne, Indiana. He was actually a part of a 4x1 relay team. That is one of the most highly regarded 4x1 relay teams probably in the last decade. So he's a very, very fast player. Again, you want to see him put on some weight, but he is a lightning rod. Like, he is bigger than Adon Schuler. He's faster than Adon Schuler. He's obviously not as physical, but he did redshirt in 2024. He played the last 3 games of the regular season before they got into the college football playoff. But he is somebody that he has. So what I noticed is he has great instincts on crossing routes. So, like, good communication with his fellow secondary mates. And we already know, we talked about it, Leonard Moore, we talked about Adon Schuler. We know that Christian Gray, we know this secondary is good, and that communication is key, right? And having that. But as an underclassman, you got to know, and you're the starting safety, right? So when there's crossing routes coming, across the field, he's really physical, and he breaks on the route, whether he's intercepting it or whether he's, hitting the receiver as he's crossing the field. I thought he does a really good job in those aspects of the game. But like Steve said, he's a track guy. He's fast as hell. Like, he is so fast on the field. Like, he'll get to the quarterback or to the ball carrier in an instant. So he's definitely someone to watch. And he'll be draft eligible next year, technically as a redshirt sophomore. I see him more as a 2028 player. And I think that Schuler's probably in the same range. He might be someone that could come out in 2027. Okay, I'll go ahead and switch from the Notre Dame crew to the first guy who absolutely dominated my Kansas State Wildcats, and that was Marcus Neal Jr., and he did so on foreign soil in Ireland. So he was the best player on the field in that game. It wasn't even close. Multiple 4th down stops in the run game. He was physical in the pass game. I think he only allowed 1 or 2 receptions in that game. He's big. He's physical. He's a run stuffer. Former 4-star recruit, and 6'1", 215 pounds. So he's somebody that is going to play down in the box around the line of scrimmage, and he's able to cover tight ends because of that physicality. And he's able to play really physical in the pass game. So, like, he's at the line of scrimmage, he's able to get hands on the tight end. He's able to get them off their route. And I think that's really something that, Kansas State struggled with because we have mostly tight ends. Like, I think last year we had 6 different tight ends score touchdowns or something like that. And I think we're on pace for that this year already. So he was someone that neutralized the tight ends for us, and that completely changed the game. And then he stuffed us in the run game. And that's just one game, but he's filling in now because I believe Jonathan Cooper, the safety Cooper for Iowa State, is out for the year. So now he's filling into a bigger role, right? So I think there's 2 DBs that are draft eligible this year for Iowa State that are down. Jeremiah Cooper is who I'm thinking of. Those 2 are down, a corner and a safety. So he's having to step into an even bigger role. And like I said, he played well from week 0. So he's someone that, definitely watch out for Marcus Neal Jr. He's a really, really good player.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on him, and I'm glad we're bringing it up because we're going to be talking about probably one of my favorite guys in doing research for this show is safety out of BYU, and Matt Campbell and his Iowa State Cyclones are taking on, BYU this weekend. So this is a good preview. Uh, I do think it's an interesting matchup. I'll talk a little more about it when we get to the BYU dude. But yeah, I mean, he's a game changer in the run game.
Yep.
What he contributes is, but you put him in that box, he has been lethal. And I'm glad you brought up, the painful game you experienced the beginning of the year. I turned on some tape from the Pop Tarts Bowl versus Miami. He had 8 tackles and he was just all over the place. Yeah, I'm really excited about him coming out. And it is an interesting game this weekend. You want to hop into the BYU guy or?
Yeah, I don't know
All
if we
right.
mentioned it or not. He's a second-year player.
Yeah.
I don't know if he redshirted last year or not. It looks like he played. No, he played in almost every game last year, so he's a true sophomore. But he's someone that definitely took a leap in the offseason. So yeah, go for the BYU game. I'll let you guys talk about him. He's your guy, and I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Yeah, me neither. So, that I'm going to go with, and, I tagged him when I posted this on X, but I'm going to try and say Falitau Satuala. All right.
That's
From
how I would have
BYU.
said it. Yep.
Awesome. But yeah, I'm really excited about him. I mean, 6'4", 210 pounds. I think of these bigger safeties. I go back to, Cam Chancellor coming out of, what was it, Virginia Tech. And obviously, made a huge name for himself. Amazing player for the Seattle Seahawks. And this dude is bigger. he's like an inch and a half bigger. But yeah, 6'4", 210 pounds. He was a two-way high school standout as a wide receiver, as well as, playing safety. 799 yards and 13 touchdowns as a receiver in his high school career, and then 86 tackles and 6 interceptions. He is a sophomore, so he will be eligible for 2027. He was a 4-star recruit, and he was ranked the number 2 in the state of Utah. He's got a bunch of tackles, 41 total tackles, I believe, right now, 26 solo, sack, interceptions, passes defense, forced fumbles. I mean, just look at, again, harping on the size thing. Look at that length and frame, and he's so fluid. Okay. The closing speed, the emerging skills, he is scheme flexible. So he could play in that deep half or he could come up in the box against the run. He's got range. And despite the size, he's got some burst on him. Consistency is there. It's only going to continue to develop. And this is, I'm definitely going to be tuned in to the BYU Iowa State game because BYU, I believe right now, is ranked 16th in the country defensively. And I believe they are, I saw the number before, I think they're one of the highest at playing man coverage within, their defense. On the other side, you've got Rocco Becht of Iowa State. He's one of the top rated guys right now, and he's really good at exposing the zone coverage, but he has struggled against man. So I'm curious to see how this game is going to play out. But yeah, he's just a really exciting player to watch. I'm looking forward to talking about him going forward.
Yeah, 100%. I think two of the reasons why Rocco Becht struggles against man coverage too is that he lost Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel to the draft, right? So they're their wide receivers with a big question mark coming into the season. Obviously, they've played pretty well so far. But to your point about Satuola, he is another guy, and I keep harping on this, but it's something I keep noticing, these little trends, right? He played mostly deep safety last year. Well, over the last 2 weeks, that has completely shifted. He is almost playing 60 to 70% of his snaps in the box. He actually, and how fitting is this, being the number 2 player in Utah, got his first career start last week against Utah in that game, and he played really, really well. He had a great coverage grade. He only allowed 2 receptions. He had a pass breakup. Again, playing most of his snaps in the box. So they are moving him around based on his size, based on his frame, after having him mostly as a deep safety last year. So I love when coaches recognize the skill that their players have and what they can do best. We talked about it with Cruz Brookins earlier on the show. We talked about it now we're talking about it with Satula. Like, people don't understand, like, moving positions like that is opening up a new world for some of these players. And I think Satula is the next player. I think he's someone that is going to move down into the box. Again, that huge 6'4", 210-pound frame, close to the line of scrimmage, making plays, manning up on tight ends, whatever it may be. He made some really good plays in that Utah game, and he was a big reason why they won. I'll actually shift sides to the other side of the ball and the other part of the state. We'll stay in Utah, though. We can talk about Jackson Benet. Is that how you pronounce it? Jackson.
I don't know. I was going to call him Beanie, but go for it.
I would have said Ben, or I guess that's Benny.
Yeah, I'll say Jackson Benny, 6'2", 190-pound safety out of, like, for Utah right now. It's interesting because he is another guy. Weeks 1 through 5, he started at slot cornerback. He was their slot corner for weeks 1 through 5. They had a bye week, week 6, came back week 7 and 8. He started at free safety, and those were his second and third highest graded performances of the season. So, again, he's another one that has experience playing in the slot, but he's not. I think he's a better safety, right? So he moves to safety, and he's already showing his impact in these 2 games. So he's just a little undersized. He's tall, right? 6'2", but he's only 190. He's not as good in the run game. That's kind of the area that I would want to see him improve on as he kind of moves into that deep safety role as opposed to slot corner. So he's someone to look out for. Steve, do you have more on him? I don't have a lot on him. I just wanted to stay in Utah, and I think he's a good player. I think now we get to see some more reps at deep safety rather than slot corner, and I think that's going to make him a stronger case for the NFL.
Yeah, love it. So one interesting point about the weight thing, you hit on the number, 6'2", 190. His senior year at high school, he was listed at 6'1", 175. So he's grown an inch and he's added 15 pounds. So that's a good sign. Would like to see that frame continue to fill out. Interestingly enough, I don't know if he's another, played both sides, wide receiver and safety in high school. I have to double check this, but I have a note on him that said he was an unrated walk-on who rose through the ranks at Utah through the special teams. How many times are we going to talk about how important, the special teams contributions are going to be?
Yep.
Well, and especially if you're a safety and you are not Caleb Downs where you're starting week 1, backup safeties play nearly all special teams snaps. So if you're a safety in college football, really good advice that Steve just gave you there. You want to play special teams. If you have special teams film, because there's actually a special teamer, you guys haven't gotten to him yet, but I will make sure that we will cover him before the podcast ends. Steve, sorry for interrupting. Carry on.
No, this is like a soap opera now. Now I feel like I'm on a cliffhanger. I can't wait. All right, Cha, who's another guy you want to talk about?
Yeah, real quick on Jackson Benet. One really quick. Last year, he's playing a lot less special teams than he did last year. But when he's playing, he has a 91 special teams grade on PFF for whatever that's worth. So someone that definitely has risen through the ranks. I just saw he is a former walk-on. I just looked it up I Googled it, as I call it.
Thank you.
Okay, so you said Caleb Downs. Let's talk about Caleb Downs' running mate, Jalen McClain from Ohio State, 6 foot, 201 pounds. He is the youngest starter on Ohio State's defense. He had a pick 6 in the spring game, which they blew dead because they're just trying to get reps, right? They didn't actually. I mean, he was going to score no matter what, but they blew it dead so the other offense could have a chance with the ball right before half in that situation. But he picked off Julian Sand and would have ran it back for a touchdown. So he has really good instincts in coverage. Like I said, he started every single game opposite of Caleb Downs. He's a very physical player. And what I think he's done the most to help out that Ohio State defense that's now led by Matt Patricia is he's allowed Caleb Downs to roam. Caleb Downs can do whatever he wants in the back end, whether it's at the line of scrimmage, whether it's deep, whether it's playing man on the best receiver, whatever it may be. He is the reason Jalen McClain is the reason why Caleb Downs is able to move around and be the star player in that defense, right? So I'm a big fan of Jalen McClain. I think he's got really natural instincts. He's someone that's only going to get better. And learning from Caleb Downs, like he's already showing great communication in the secondary, coming off zones. If someone comes into his zone, he knows to go towards that player, or he knows to pass that player off to the next or to the corner on the outside, whatever it may be. He's really instinctive. He's really physical. And like I said, the sky's the limit with him.
Yeah, I'm with you. From Seton Hall Prep, big high school in the West Orange area of New Jersey, actually not too far from the guy I spoke about before, who comes from Irvington. I know that area of Jersey pretty well. Go Pirates. Another multi-sport athlete, track guy. He ran his 100-meter just about in 11 seconds. I had a note I wanted to bring up on him. Yeah, so he chose Ohio State. He had offers from Georgia, USC, Michigan, LSU, Notre Dame, and Oregon. Mr. McClain, smart going to my Buckeyes. You're one of us. Anyway, but yeah, you said it before about learning from Caleb Downs. I mean, he's already known for having a high football IQ. So you have exposure to conceivably the best safety in the nation. You're only going to get better. And of course, you add in, Matt Patricia, an NFL caliber coach, coordinator into that. No INTs, but they may come. Regardless, I'm not as concerned about that. I think we get focused a little too much on the turnovers. But again, he's smart, he's instinctive. Like you said, he enables Downs to be what he is. He's a physical tackler for his size. So, yeah, good job.
Do you know who Ohio State's defensive backs coach is?
Go ahead. I'm listening.
Trick question. It's Matt Patricia. So he is assuming both roles. So hey, pretty good player to learn, or a pretty good guy to learn from, obviously, with all of his NFL experience. So, but yeah, I thought that was funny. I just looked up their DB coach, and it is actually Matt Patricia, who is also the defensive coordinator. So, yeah, he's a good player. Okay, let's get into someone that might come out this year, but I'd love to see them go back for their redshirt senior season. And that's Keon Saab from Alabama, 6'1", 204 pounds. He's about a 60% deep safety guy, and then he splits the other 40% of the snaps between slot and the box. So he's able to move around, really, really versatile. I really need to dive into his tape though, because he's another guy that started some games at deep safety, some games at strong safety in the box. Like he's moved around quite a bit in their defense. So understanding what is different is something that I need to dive in on with him. I still think he's a day 3 guy, even if he comes out this year. I think he can improve that, quite honestly, if he goes out next year. He doesn't. It's so weird. He plays the game so unnecessarily aggressive at times, but he doesn't get penalties. Like he's not a guy who has a lot of penalties, and it's crazy because he plays so aggressive. I listened to him in his interview. He's mature, but he's only allowed 2 catches for 16 yards this year on 133 coverage snaps. That is a 0.0 passer rating. So he's very, very good in coverage. He can't tackle right now. And I think that's another thing that he needs to go back to. He needs to go back for one more year at Alabama, really focus on tackling. He just hit 1,000 snaps. I know Steve talks about number of snaps a lot. He was at Michigan, obviously transferred to Alabama, but he still wasn't getting on the field. He didn't get on the field his redshirt freshman year. And then as he's getting on the field, he's kind of been moved around a little bit in the secondary. And again, I just think he needs more reps. I think he needs more time. So he is someone that you're going to hear in the 2026 cycle quite often. Obviously, Alabama has 2 safeties, him and then also Bray Hubbard in this class. But I think he's better off coming back to school, improving what he needs to improve on, which I think is his physicality, is his tackling. And then we can move, on to the 2027 class. I think that would be better for him. What do you think about him, Steve? Do you have anything?
Yeah, I definitely think, we talk about it all the time, guys who should come out, guys who should wait. A lot of times it's position specific. So I do agree with you. In terms of the Crimson Tide safeties, I really like Bray Hubbard. So nothing against Saab. I'm just more partial to Hubbard. I definitely think Hubbard is going to come out. this April. He is a junior, so obviously, he can stay or whatever. Yeah, I agree with you. The amount of snaps is up there. I do want to see further development. Conversely, I will bring up Hubbard, and obviously we're going to be covering safeties as well as the other draft professors. Yeah, I want to see Hubbard come out 6'2", 213. Don't make me wait, dude. Come on. He is a junior, so like I said, he can wait for 27. His contribution in the run game is phenomenal. I hyped up a couple of the other guys before, but most of his contributions have been in the box. So I'm glad we touched on that. But yeah, I would like to see Sab RTS, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and Hubbard's been playing really good, and he honestly is playing at a high level. I think he should come out as well. I think what's interesting is when I summer scouted the safeties, we talked about Keon Sabb, but we didn't talk about Bray Hubbard on that episode of the Draft Professors podcast. But I had it written in my own personal post, and I said he made one of the best plays I've ever seen a safety make, and it was last season against Georgia, where he's just split safety, only safety, like it's cover one, only safety in the middle of the field, and he sprinted all the way to the sideline on what would have been a perfectly thrown ball, and he just picked it off out of nowhere. Bray Hubbard is a really, really talented player. I would also like to see him come out this year, despite having less than 800 career snaps as of right now. So he's just playing at a higher level, I think, and I think he's someone that's rising up boards as opposed to Keon Sabb that's just kind of staying in the same spot from what we've seen this year, in my opinion. Okay, well, let's get into another SEC safety, and we'll talk about KJ Bolden from Georgia. I only have a little bit on him, so I'll let you go into him. But 6 foot, 195. He started at both safety spots this year. He's a better run defender than a cover guy. I think he's one of the highest graded run defenders in the country, actually, at the safety position. But yet again, he's 50-50 playing in the box or playing deep. So he's someone that can move around, and he showed versatility in that. And I think KJ Bolden's someone that, is potentially going to have I don't want to say a meteoric rise, but he's definitely going to rise if he decides to stay and go for the 2027 class.
Yeah. Yeah, I have him down as a sophomore, or first year will be next year, 2027. There has been a slight dip in his overall grade from 24 to 25, but yeah, his run defense grade, he's way up there. He's taken a lot of box snaps. He's taken a lot of free safety snaps. You mentioned the weight, 6 feet, 185 pounds. He was a state finalist in the 100-meter. So again, we're seeing this pattern of the track guys. 5-star recruit. He was rated the #1 safety nationally. He originally committed to Florida State before he flipped, and he went to Georgia. He was a good receiver as well. So again, 12 solo tackles, 1 interception, couple of passes, defense. He's making a name for himself in the SEC. So glad he's got another year, maybe another 2. Needs to definitely put on some weight, sustain his focus over an entire game, over entire season. He's hungry. Yeah. Get that turnover production up if possible, and we'll see where he goes. But yeah, good.
Yeah, you're right. He is someone that's not eligible until next year. So I thought he was eligible this year, but should go back. But yeah, he absolutely should go back. He can't come out, obviously, but he's someone that I think 1 or 2 more years, and we're going to be talking about him as potential top 100 player in the draft.
Yep. I do want to give a shout out. I just clicked on something I shouldn't have, and I lost it. Give me 1 second to get it back. Give me 1 second. Safety out of Houston, University of Houston. Yeah, Taylor, you and I talked. We struggled to find tape on the Houston defense. Yep. I still wanted to bring him up. Give me 1 second. Where is he? Jordan Allen. Yep. So we've been talking mostly about 6 foot plus guys. Here's a guy who's 5'11", 200 pounds, sub 11 second 100-meter in high school. He is a sophomore. He transferred. Well, so that's the thing. He's called a sophomore. I'm not sure that's accurate, but he transferred to Houston. from LSU because he wanted a better opportunity. It's coming along. He's consistent for now in his coverage. He's very versatile. So again, we've got that corner safety hybrid. I'm not sure yet if I want to see him at safety or if I want to see him at nickel. I haven't made that decision yet. The one reason why I wanted to bring him up, like I said, I struggled finding Houston defense tape, but I did catch a couple of videos, YouTube, other clips. He's a really humble guy. He gives an interview that's really impressive. And I just really like these guys like that. But I also saw something that he's got a really high grade in NCAA 2026. And these things matter. Maybe it matters more than PFF. I don't know. But he's way.
Being a Jets fan, that really matters. For all you know,
right.
That could be what the owner is doing in the draft.
That's right. The owner and the son. Yep. Yep. Madden matters.
Well, not only that, have you? Yeah, I don't know if you have either of you heard Eric DeCosta talk about the Baltimore Ravens kind of formula that they have for draft grades, and it actually factors Madden and college football rating into that. And it's a very small percentage, but in their draft formula, I'm not kidding, this is real. You can go find it. Eric DeCosta talks about it. It's a lengthy formula, right? They have all these different metrics that go into it, but a small sliver of that is these video game ratings. Isn't that the wildest thing you've ever heard?
I wonder if that was his own thing or if he got that from Ozzie Newsome. I don't know about that, but
yeah, I don't know either. But I like Jordan Allen as well. It is really hard to find tape for some reason on the Houston defense, at least from what I can tell. He is listed as a sophomore, but he was at LSU for 3 seasons. So I'm not really sure how that works unless he redshirted and then medicaled, because his first 2 years he played a combined 125 snaps. So he wasn't on the field for either of those first 2 years. Obviously, he transferred to LSU. And I actually have it written down exactly what you said, Steve. His interview is incredible. He's a great, great interviewer. He's a smart, cerebral player. He's only a 3-star recruit. He was just inside the top 1,000 players in his class back in 2022. But I think what I like, and you mentioned this, he played both corner and safety in high school. So I think he has that position flexibility to move around in the secondary. I actually like him better as a deep safety. It was pretty split in last year at LSU. And I think that, his coverage grade, his grade in general has just skyrocketed since he's got more playing time. And almost all of that playing time has been in the back end as deep safety. So while I do think he can move around and he will be able to play in the nickel in some specific formations, whether that's, a dime package or something, in a pass heavy down, he'll be able to move around in the slot for that. But I think I like him as a deep safety. I think I like him over top a little bit more. One thing I have about him is that not only him, other players on this Houston defense, their defense is legit. They have a legit defense this year. Houston is 6-1 in the Big 12, or not in the Big 12. Sorry, they're 6-1 overall. They're 1 loss. They have 1 loss in the Big 12. A huge game this weekend at Arizona State, where he's really going to be tested against, Sam Leavitt and one of the best wide receivers in the entire country in Jordan Tyson. So,
Jordan Tyson is out this weekend.
Well, that makes it a lot nicer for Houston and Jordan Allen.
And it's interesting. I think we all left Tyson when I did my sort of mid-season thing. I moved him down actually from my top wide receiver. I moved him down to 3. That was before this happened. Wow. Because I just like where Carnell Tate is coming on, and I've kind of stayed level with Mekhi Lemon of USC. Yep. But yeah, it came out, I believe it was yesterday, that he's got a hurt hamstring and he's been ruled out. And I hate it because now, we're covering safeties, but so he's had a knee, he's had a collarbone, and now he's got a hamstring. I'm starting to get a little worried.
Yeah. I mean, totally fair. I think obviously that helps the Houston defense, right? And Jordan Allen. So I look for him to have a big week. Obviously they need to win. Their defense has played really, really well, and he's a big reason why. So I think we talked about his interview. I think the most impressive thing about his interview is just how hungry he is for what he described as a second chance, right? Obviously It didn't work out at LSU. It's working out at Houston, right? It's working out at Houston. If he's only a sophomore, it means he could come out next year in the 2027 class, or he could come out in 2028. So he is a player to keep an eye on. I mean, Willie Fritz, third-year Willie Fritz. It's a thing. They're 6-1 right now. They're cooking, and their defense is a big reason why.
Yeah. I do have one more guy to bring up. I don't know if you have anything on him, but I do want to give him a shout out. Genesis Smith of the Arizona Wildcats. I mean, you brought up Arizona State, so I'll stay in state. 6'2", 202 pounds, in-state kid from Chandler, Arizona. This is not official, but supposedly he had a 32-inch vertical. Here's where I get blown away. I talked about the height, 6'2". He's got a 6'6" wingspan, 78-inch wingspan. Wow. 38 tackles, 1 interception early on, very fluid hips, physical enough. He could play in run support and the deep. That's where he's been excelling, is not so much in the run, but in his coverage.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you have anything on Genesis Smith, but I did want to bring that up.
So, yeah, he's another player that absolutely terrorized K-State. Like, absolutely like, he was the best player on the field. It's his best graded game of the season. It's not even close, really. Like, he's 10 points higher graded in the K-State game than any other game. And the one thing about him that I noticed again, and maybe this is the way that PFF grades slot cornerbacks versus safeties, but he is a player that played almost exclusively in the slot in 2024. About 60 to 65% of his snaps, almost 70% came in the slot last year. Now, 60 to 70% of those are deep safety. He's almost not playing in the slot at all. And he has skyrocketed. Like, he has been all over the field. They're able to use him down in the box, close to the line of scrimmage. I have actually seen him as high as a top 5 safety in this year's class. He is eligible for this year's class. I don't necessarily think that, honestly, he's probably the safety out of all of the safeties that we've talked about so far on this episode. I would rank him the highest. And I don't know that we talked about Bray Hubbard. Obviously, we briefly talked about him. Him or Bray Hubbard would be up there. But Genesis Smith, man, he is an absolute beast. He's flying up draft boards this year.
Yeah. So Owen and Jake were doing some safeties on Wednesdays, just mid-season reports. Genesis Smith is coming back with a top 100 grade for Owen. So, that's very real. So if you're getting a top 100 grade as a safety, do you go back to school and think that you could do better? Now, there's a lot of positions, like if you're a wide receiver and you're getting a top 100 grade, wide receivers can go really high, whereas the likelihood of safety is going to go in the top 20. Your name has to be Caleb Downs or Kyle Hamilton. So if you're getting a top 100 grade as a safety, you should get drafted while your stock is high.
Yep. And what's the average number of safeties? You know this number, Jim, that gets drafted. Is it 12? Or is it more than
17?
That?
So I believe.
Okay.
So the tough thing is it's always difficult to tell. Like Cooper DeJean, was he a safety or a corner when he came out, right? So on average, I believe it's 55 DBs, 33 of which are cornerbacks. So that would tell you that it's going to be between 17 and 22 safeties that get drafted. So when we do scouting reports, we're going to do scouting reports on 24. And then when the Senior Bowl arrives and the Shrine Bowl, those usually add some safeties to the mix that we didn't necessarily know about at this time of year. So that will be a position that you will see Thursdays on this podcast. We will be diving into the safeties. I believe it's 2 weeks from today.
Yep. And I'm excited to dive into Genesis Smith. I mean, he's someone that, as soon as I watched that Week 3 game against K-State, he was added to my board immediately. Yep. He's just someone that has been he's just been playing so well. He's absolutely flying up boards. But I actually have 2 more names that I can get to really quickly. One of them, again, we talked about on the USC Illinois preview. True junior, almost exclusively deep safety, Bishop Fitzgerald out of USC, 5'11", 205. He has 5 interceptions already this year. It's the only note that I have written down, but he's playing really well for that USC defense right now. Again, eligible for the 2026 class. Assume that he will come out in the 2027 class, although he is eligible this year. And then the last player I have is Marcus Ratliff from Texas A&M. He is a 6'2", 209-pound safety that is basically split 50-50 from deep safety to box. So again, I talk about where they're lined up a lot because the more you're able to line up in the box or deep or in the slot, like you're only making your NFL evaluation that much better, right? We talked about it with just Cooper DeJean just now. He started his career. He played his rookie year at corner, right? Obviously had success with the Eagles. Well, then he moved to safety for this year, right? So he's someone that's already shown that he can move around at the NFL level. So if you're seeing it in college, it's probably going to translate pretty well, right? You at least know the assignments, you know what your job is, you know where to be and when to be there. So that's a big thing for me is movement and playing in multiple spots. Right now, he's one of the top graded safeties in the entire country, and he's in his second season in the A&M defense after transferring from San Diego State. But the one thing I noticed about him is he is a leader, and I know he's a leader because I've been around collegiate athletics. I've been around who gets to talk to the media. Like you don't get to talk to the media in college unless you are well-spoken. You're able to, a lot of times like they hide, players from talking to the media if they're not ready. Well, as a redshirt sophomore, I think he is the one answering media questions after a win, right? He was the one answering questions after the win against Arkansas this last weekend, right? And as that just tells me that he's a leader. It tells me he's someone that's well-spoken. He's someone that knows what he's talking about. And obviously you're seeing that on the field right now. So Marcus Ratliff, Texas A&M, definitely someone to watch moving forward.
Yeah, I didn't pull anything for Bishop. I'm going to wait till we start covering safeties just in the chance that he declares. But yeah, glad you brought up Ratcliffe. Sorry. So he's verified. It's believed he's verified at 6'2", 209. The Aggies website has him at something else. But so he originally signed with San Diego State. Then he briefly committed to UCLA. And then he chose TAMU. He was a 3-star ranked safety. He helped lead his team to the 2021 state championship. And you hit on the key thing, because what continues to come up about Marcus Ratcliffe is, besides his physicality, besides his ball skills, is his leadership. And I go back to talking about Jordan Allen, and these are the things you want to see. Gets into the league, maybe not a middle linebacker. Maybe this is the kind of guy that wears the green dot and calls the defense when the time comes. But yeah, downhill guy, SEC experience, really good tackler. So yeah, glad you brought him up.
Okay. So I'm going to throw 2 names out there that haven't been brought up yet. So Kerry Brown from Minnesota. Sam Teets was really high on, like he had a top 50 grade in Kerry Brown coming out of the summer. This has not been the best year for Kerry Brown in Minnesota, but that is definitely a safety name to watch.
Bulk of his snaps, he's taken the bulk of his snaps for this year at slot corner. So maybe that's something to look at with Kerry Brown. Redshirt sophomore, 5'10", 190. So, okay, that's good though. But yeah, the bulk of his has been in the slot.
And then another safety that we have covered on the channel several times. So Owen did a midseason preview on safeties about 3 weeks ago. Peyton Bowen from Oklahoma. Again, when we were talking about the safeties that play special teams, Peyton Bowen has a couple of blocked kicks to his credit. So this is a safety that has experience box, slot, free safety, definitely an athletic safety. But Owen was also saying, like, he should probably go back. The athletic traits are there, but the tape can be better. So more than likely, Peyton Bowen is going back to school because I believe he's still on the draft simulator. But Owen,
he is.
Owen's
I saw him come up the other day.
Yeah,
he's a junior, so he can stick it out the last year, come out in 2027. Yeah. His overall grading, has improved, from 23. It really dipped in 24. He's back way above his average for this season. But yeah, he's been all over the place. Not a lot of slot corner snaps for him, primarily at free safety and then box. But yeah, glad Owen brought up the kick block. Yep.
Yeah. He's someone that flies around. He honestly, and we just like saw last year, right? We saw not only Billy Bowman Jr., but Danny Stutzman both get drafted. So there's two guys that he got to learn from while he's playing special teams. He sees those guys every day in practice. He sees the vision, right? They're early day three picks, right? So I think he's in that mold, right? He keeps grinding on special teams. He keeps showing these really good reps at safety, flying around to the ball, just being that energizer bunny that honestly both Bowman and Stutzman were, right? Like if he emulates their game, I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be selected on day 3 next year.
Yeah, and then they also have this year Robert Spears Jennings, who will be in this draft class.
Exactly.
And then Samuel Okunlola is a safety that converted to linebacker.
Yeah.
And Owen just really liked how that entire trio of players was looking on film overall.
Yeah, and I mean you get in that Brent Venables defense, man. You get put in the league, right? You saw it. So many Clemson guys back in the 2010s were into the league, and he was a big reason why he's a defensive coordinator out there.
Yep. Well, why don't we pause for podcaster identification? Steve, do you want to introduce yourself and let everybody know about all the other content that you make?
Yeah. So obviously could catch me here with Jim and Chaw Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern. My Twitter handle, Steve SWFL, is in the description. Got my own channel, same as the Twitter handle. I call the show Talk Tape and Turbines. So a lot of football, mostly geared to the NFL. But as we get through the college season, get into, the Senior Bowl, the Shrine Bowl, I'll be doing a lot more content. Also, building out, doing a lot of work with Taylor on our own thing. We tried that last week. Something went wrong technologically. It killed us both, but we're trying again. So, Chaw, what about you?
Yeah, just launched the website footballwithchaw.com. Also, new YouTube channel. Same thing. Definitely go follow over there. And then most of my time is spent on Twitter, which is where Jim found me. Right, I just kind of talk about the draft process. Unlike Steve, I don't do as much with the NFL. My focus is primarily the college draft process, right? So anything that involves, obviously we're talking about safeties from 2027 and beyond right now. Obviously we'll get into safeties in this year's class in 2 weeks. And then I have my own content on my blog as well. Most recently talking about the new NFL kick returning rules, which Steve and I talked about on the audio broken show that we did last Friday together. But it was good. Like the new NFL kick return rules have changed the way we look at it from a draft prospect. So definitely go check out that article. That's probably the most in-depth article that I've ever written. So really excited about that one. Love finding kick returners. Right. So yeah, Jim.
Well, welcome to Draft Professor, everybody. If you could go to @NFL Draft Fanatic, no, I am Fanatic, and give a follow on Twitter. That would be the best way to know about all of the great podcasters that we have here. So Steve and Taylor are part of a group of 20 podcasters that are showing up once a week, putting out daily content. You might know some of the other podcasters. One of them is a retired NFL offensive lineman. He was breaking down offensive linemen on Tuesdays. That was actually one of my favorite draft podcasts ever. Was just I had never heard offensive line play in that level of detail. So that was just a lot of fun for me. But we're here every day at 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern. And then we have a show on Saturday morning and Sunday mornings. Right now, we're going to be breaking down the draft class from now until December. So every podcast will feature about 8 players, and 2 draft professors will go through and compare their notes on the 8 players. Less drama this year. Feels like everybody's agreeing on their player evals. Last year we had a lot more differences, but different year, different group of podcasters. But that's what we're doing right now. But for Chaw, Taylor, Steve, myself, for the 106 podcasters at the Draft Professor, thank you for tuning in, everybody, and we'll see you on a podcast again at 9 p.m. Eastern in about 50 minutes. Thank you, everybody.